I've been driving it now for the past couple of days, and overall, it's been a great experience. I like it. I'm a really big fan. It looks premium. It feels premium. People that have been in the car have mentioned it. They've noticed it, and they keep saying how nice it is. So I guess the result is good. Everyone seems to like it. Every now and then, I accidentally use the original start button. When I turn off the car, when I'm shifting gears, turn off the car, slow down. So it's just instinctively I use this button, but slowly but surely I'll get back to I'll start using this new button exclusively. It took me around 3 hours to finish, but realistically, if you watch my video beforehand, you should be done in 30 to 45 minutes if you take it slow. Good luck. I think it's a great mod and it's worth the effort. Hey guys, so today we're going to be installing this start stop button that goes on the steering wheel. So it looks pretty cool. We got it from Carbon Miata. The actual construction is plastic, but it feels good and it looks like metal. But yeah, it is plastic. It looks pretty cool, so we'll see how that goes. Unfortunately, the instructions on the website are non-existent. There's no video of any kind, so here's our attempt. We're gonna try to make a video for anyone that wants to make one in the future, wants to install one of these buttons in the future. Hopefully we can make their life a little bit easier. So first thing, we're gonna pop open the hood and remove the battery. Okay, so that's loosened up. We're just gonna pop it off. Just remove this out of the way. There we go, just to make sure it won't make any sort of contact. And at this point, we can pretty much close the hood. I'm just gonna get it close. There we go, and I'll latch it all the way. Now, the first thing, now that we're inside, is we're gonna pop off the airbag. And in order to do that, there's a couple holes on the sides. I think there's 3. And we have to find a flathead screwdriver. And we basically push inside against those holes, like in those holes. And it'll gradually pop off. It's like 1, 2, 3 areas. It'll pop off, and then we can take it off and unplug the plugs. So let's get started. Okay, so now we popped all those 3 little tabs off. We just pushed them in, basically. Push in the flathead screwdriver. It's a little tricky to get, to be honest, but yeah, just have a look inside the holes with a flashlight and you'll be able to see it easier. So now we got the airbag off. We're just gonna take off that connector, and we do that by lifting the little black bit in the middle of the yellow connector. We lift it up with a small screwdriver, and that will allow us to pop it off. And the other one, this one with the blue cable, that just pulls right off. Okay, so I'm going to be using a 21mm socket. Just put that right in there. Make sure you get a good grip of the steering wheel. I'm sure you can just undo it, but I don't want to risk, breaking the locking mechanism. So I'm going to hold on to it as well. Okay, and just counterclockwise, off it goes. So the ND steering wheel is, as you might already know, incredibly sensitive. So make sure you get it exactly in the position that you took it out from. Otherwise, your car's going to be going sideways when your steering wheel is straight. So be careful with that. Make sure you put it in the exact same position. If you want, you can make yourself a little mark, put some tape on top. I've seen people do that. Up to you, but just make sure it goes in the same place. So once you've taken off the airbag, make sure to undo that clip. If you try to just pull on the steering wheel, it's still attached. That is attached to the spindle. So we need to undo that clip, and then we can take off the steering wheel. Okay, so we pull that off, and now the steering wheel can come off without a problem. Right. So this little guy, make sure it stays kind of exactly where it is. If you move it out of the way, you can really mess things up, because this controls a lot of things. So try to keep it exactly as it is, or even if you do move it, make sure you put it back where it was. Okay, so now in the PDF that we had for this start stop button, they're saying to pop this off, so we can do that in a second. And they also mentioned taking these two bits off, this as well, part of the dash, so it's gonna be pretty invasive. I really hope this pays off. Let's get started, I guess. Okay, so this just pulls up. You just pull up on it, there's some clips, and then you kind of pull back and it comes right off. So that's not a problem. The bottom one is a little bit more tricky. As you can see, there's two holes, one right here, one down here. Okay, kind of tricky to find and to see, and you have to take those off. There's two Phillips screws. This is the screw, so there's two of these. You need to pop those off. A little tricky since the car is very small and you don't have much room. And after that, you should just be able to pull it off. I haven't actually, okay, there we go. So yeah, that comes off. Okay, so that's done. Let's put this to the side, add it to the list. All right, okay, so we're getting somewhere. We're making progress. Okay, so the next step is actually remove, well, technically we need to get here, so we need to take this off. In order to take this off, we need to take this off. So yeah, it's just a couple, it's like a domino effect thing. In any case, this just pulls off. So you just need to use a prying tool or preferably one of those like special tools for trims. I don't have one of those, so I'm just gonna have to be extra careful. So I already opened this before when I installed the rear view camera. So I had a little area where I used, but basically just get in there with the screwdriver, be very careful, and then you can just pull this off, hopefully without breaking it. Okay, so it's a little difficult with one hand. There it is. I'm sure technically we're gonna have to take the whole thing off. I'm gonna give it a shot and see if I can do it without taking everything off, because I'm lazy. And you know, at the end of the day, this is plastic, so it should be pretty flexible. Okay, so let's hope that actually popped off in a good way and I didn't break anything. Next, we're gonna have to take this off. So we basically just pull it back like this. Be extra careful. There we go. So that's off. So like I said before, luckily it's a Mazda, so it's pretty easy to take off parts. Okay, so what I did, I took a screwdriver, just kind of leveraged it, and I pulled this back. So I'm pulling this back. This in fact holds this entire piece. So I'm doing it from here, as opposed, I mean, if I had a prying tool, I guess you could kind of do it from here, like one of those plastic trim tools, but I didn't want to risk breaking it, so that's why I'm doing it from here, from this little hinge thingy. It seems to have worked. There we go. Yeah, probably not the way Mazda intended for this to come off, but here it is, it's off. And there's a small little plug and it comes right off. There we go. So I think we're a step further. I do believe we just pull on it, so let's give it a shot. See what happens. Well, it looks like this works. Okay, so let's pull the switches down. We can, I think, push this down. There we go. And still connected to something here. Okay. There's a plug right, I'm not sure if you can see it, it's kind of far away, but there's a white plug right here. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug it. Really not sure if you can see this, but you can only see this part exposed. So maybe try it with a really wide screwdriver, push that in, and then you can pull it back. But yeah, it's not a very elegant solution. I think they could have done that a little bit better. Anyway, moving on. So we have this little thing off, the dash is off. There's no more room in the car for stuff. All right, so I've moved to a more sterile location since my steering wheel is Alcantara, so I got to take care of it as much as I can. But the next step, or the steps, are all about the wiring, which is technically the most important bit. So we're going to take everything out of the box. According to the instructions, the next step would be to install the mount, basically. So it's saying we need to take this cover off. Okay, so apparently it just pops off with, again, if you have a plastic prying tool, would be ideal. If not, you can just give it your best like me with a good old-fashioned screwdriver, but be careful as it may cause damage. So we're gonna pry this off and then we'll go off to the next steps. Let's see. This is the way we're doing it, at least for now. Okay, so some progress. Again, not ideal, I know, I am aware, but it is what it is. Sometimes a little DIY is necessary. It might just be a little bit tighter because of my Alcantara, because I know the guy who did it, I asked him to make the wheel thicker, so the steering wheel is legitimately thicker. Right, so that's off. That's great. I guess we're making progress. We're just gonna move this to the side, because technically, supposedly, we're done with the steering wheel for now. So as you can tell from the shape, I mean, you might not be able to, but it kind of just fits in there, you know? Like I said, I think it's 3D printed. The fitment seems to be all right. It's still a bit of a wiggle, so it's not like they got the angle flawlessly correct, but good enough. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. This piece is meant to be flush, so that the bottom stand is meant to be flush with the outer edge of the trim. So we're just gonna make it flush like that. Again, we're gonna go with the template because this is nuts. So my idea of a template should be relatively simple. It's just making cardboard piece, or maybe even paper if this proves to be too hard. And we're gonna mark the first hole. Obviously you can wing it and start making holes, but that will, I mean, you'll end up with a bunch of holes in your trim. So if you want to avoid that, this is the way to do it. So I put a drill bit through, a small one, through this original hole, the only one that we have kind of available. And then for the other ones, now for these we're going to wing it, yes. However, at least we have one guide, and the winging part is only applies to cardboard and not to the actual trim itself. So, you know, we can replace the cardboard, not a problem. So we have this trim. I mean, we know roughly where the other holes are. So let's just try to go for the big one, which is here. There we go, found it. So we got the big hole as well. And I'm gonna put another drill bit through, so that kind of holds it in position. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Now all we're left with are two little holes for the other screws. So not the easiest thing in the world, but looks like we guessed correctly. So that's the other one done. And now we have one more. This is pure guessing, by the way. I have no idea where it is. Okay, maybe I should look. Okay. Okay, there we go, found it. There we go. So we now have a MacGyvered template. Okay, so we can take this off, use this to make our markings. I found the marker. I already checked the inside, so it does leave a pretty visible mark. So I guess we can just unplug everything. We can have a look at our beautiful creation. That's what it looks like. Doesn't look all that amazing, but it'll save the day, that's for sure. Just gonna use our template. There we go. Let's see if that's correct. So you put the template here. Yes, so that's looking good. Obviously, if you get it in a few millimeters in or out, I'm sure it's not going to be the end of the world. So that's okay. Technically, any holes you make will be covered by this little thing itself. But I think it's best not to make unnecessary holes, if at all possible. Okay, there, so we have our position. I'm going to make the markings. I guess you could use something sharp, but I just prefer using a marker. There you go, perfectly visible. And don't forget, this hole needs to be bigger. So we're gonna use 3mm or whatever you got for these 3 holes. And the bigger hole is for the wiring. And that's gonna be apparently a 6mm, I think is what they asked for. Yeah, 3 and a 6. Let's get to it. Let's go for the next 2 ones. These are the mounting screws. Okay, made them a little bigger. And I'm going to use a cutter to clean off these shavings. If you just leave them on there, the actual fitment won't be very good because it's going to kind of float above the holes by 1 to 2mm. So we're just going to take those off to make sure it's a clean cut, a clean hole. We'll just, I think we can get the wiring in pretty easily, so we'll just attach it now. Okay, so let's try to get one of these in. Okay. So these are not a problem because we have plenty of space to put the screws through. This, however, is what you would call plenty of problem. So I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go get a ratchet or something. Try to make it work. But it's definitely not gonna be easy. Okay, so I got all baby ratchet, and we're gonna try to get that screwed through. It's kind of the only way, either with this or a 90-degree attachment, like I mentioned before. So let's give it a shot. Oh god, it's so tight. So I guess the little template works. I suggest you use it, guys or gals. So let's tighten the remaining 2 screws up. So there it is. We got the button, or the housing for the button, done. So that's progress. So let's start with green. In our case, that would be yellow, because it's the one with this metal bracket. So we're gonna go with yellow. Yellow 2, number 2. Okay, so the numbers are listed here. This would be number 2. I did about a centimeter. I don't know how much that is in inches, half an inch, I have no idea. And we're gonna kind of loop it around. Okay, so I made a U shape, and it's connected to number 2. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this up. Beautiful, tight connection. So we have the yellow cable connected to 2. In this case, position green, position 1 plus 3. Okay, position 2 is green. In this case, yellow. So we connected position 2 to the yellow bit, which has the metallic bracket. Position 1 and 3, so 1 and 3, is meant to be connected with the black and white cable. As you can see, this red cable is our black and white cable by the process of elimination. Okay, so you actually have to strip it a fair amount just to make sure it clears both of these screws. Tighten it up a little bit. Tighten this one up as well. Make sure it makes contact with both, because just a second ago I tightened it up and it was making contact with just the rubber housing of the wire. But there we go. So now we have good connections. Make sure to tighten them up once more. You don't want to end up with them coming loose in the future. But then again, I guess this should be a relatively easy fix. But that's what it looks like. So position 2 is with the yellow cable, or in case they change it again, the cable with the circular metal bracket, and the other cable, in this case it's a red, it connects 1 and 3 together, so it jumps them. So I suppose now I just put it inside. Okay, never mind. So you just push it in real hard. So put the thread in all the way, otherwise it doesn't go through, and you just push it in, and now it's solid. So this now has to go on the actual attachment of the original power button. Just double check. Yeah, seems to be all right. Let me just have a look inside. Yeah, it shouldn't affect anything. So I guess this is a good way of putting or wiring the cable through. Let's see. And now we should just push in. Again, it might be a little bit different for my steering wheel just because it has the Alcantara and it's a little thicker, but okay. So going in is definitely much easier than taking it out. Okay, that's all in. It's looking good. So that's what it looks like from the back. As you can see, it's not a completely super flawless fitment right there, but from the front, you can tell. like literally nothing at all. So it actually looks quite good from the front. That's what I was looking for. You know, I drove a Ferrari California once, and ever since then, I was like a big fan of this. Yeah, really nice. The plug, the red one, the red cable, into the plug. But the video, I mean, the picture is very low quality, and it doesn't tell you in which hole. So from the video, kind of looks, it definitely looks like the plug is this way up and it's pointing here. So these two, the purple and the brown, were already there, and this one was empty. So I just plugged it into that one, and I'm hoping that's the right one. And the way I did it, I've never done this before, but basically if you can see the bottom of it, they have like there's a little strip going side to side of plastic, and you can unplug it. So you shove a tiny little screwdriver. Let me see if I can do this with the camera. Okay, so if you shove a tiny or thin screwdriver in here like that, you lift up a little bit and it pops out. Not much, it pops out like a millimeter. And that allowed me to slide that in, and after that I just clipped it back after I put this cable in. So that seems to have done the trick. All the cables are in, everything's okay. Right, so that's step one, I guess. Let's move on. Okay, so we're back in the car, and after a lot of trial and error, I managed to get it work. So here it is. In the instructions, again, it's not even close to being remotely attached to reality. So whatever, we're just gonna ignore the instructions from now on. We have this cable with a white little wire going through. We're gonna use this harness to connect, to bridge the gap between. I unplugged the start stop button. Start stop is beer. So I unplugged it from here to here, and we're just gonna go ahead and plug it in like this. That's a little tricky one-handed, sorry. There you go, so that's done. And this is done as well in a second. There we go, connected, click, click. So now we have this little wire going into, well, nothing. We have no idea where. I kept looking through the pictures and I thought I saw one picture that had this yellow wire in it, and I'm like, okay, so it might be this one. So basically, let me see if I can do this one-handed. Unplug this cable as well, and there's a couple empty slots. I don't know if I can zoom in. There's a couple empty slots in here. I literally randomly picked one, and luckily I got the right one first try. So this is the one that you need, not the first one, the second one. So if you look at the clip like this, the second one. Plug this cable all the way in, but of course it has the same type of clips like it did on the steering wheel. So you need to put in a little flat screwdriver, pop these out just a little bit, and that will allow you to put this in, to put the white wire in. Put it in and lock this back inside, and then we just plug it to the back of the steering wheel again. It's not very flexible, but there she is, clicked in. So now we have the wire dangling, whatever, we'll deal with that after. That's a non-issue. The steering wheel is in. I just plugged it back in, and you know, this cable, there's no mention of what it should be, but obviously it looks like a ground wire, so I need to find a wire. I plugged it in, I put the airbag back in. I just want to see if it works. So obviously it worked from the button, which is wonderful. I'm happy that wiring harness is good. And then I pressed this, nothing happened. So that was that was not good. But then as a last attempt, what I did is I touched this to the back of the steering wheel, to the metal part, and it worked. It started. So there we go. There we have it. That's what we need to do. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a little screw to go in there, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. But yeah, that's basically what we need to do. So we're just gonna make contact with the steering wheel, ground it, and then it should work. We can put everything back in, finally, out of pure guesswork. So hopefully this video helps, but let's start to put things back together. Never throw away your old screws. Always keep all of them. Ignore your wife. Because I was able to find one that actually fits this very thick gauge or whatever. So basically, I'm gonna put it through one of these holes. From what I've seen online, there's other people that have a ground there. I don't know what for, because mine doesn't, and you know, it's stock. But yeah, so I'm gonna use one of those holes. I don't think it's gonna interfere with the airbag or anything. I guess we'll find out if it pops on me. But yeah, I'm gonna put it right through, plug it back in, and that should do it. We'll give it a test and see if it works. Okay, so here we are. Put the battery in. You can see we got power. Let's press this button, see what happens. Okay, that's good. That's supposed to happen. Let's see if the same thing happens now. It does. There we go. So it should. There we go. It works. Feels nice and sturdy. Yeah, looking good. Anyway, let's put everything back together. The steering wheel back off again, since we need to put everything back. I may or may not have forgotten about that. And yeah, let's do the wiring. It's actually going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to route them through the back of this, like that. This kind of makes me a little worried. I have no idea where this is going to go, because from what I can see, I'm pushing this in, but it's not going anywhere. So yeah, that's not ideal. I'm hoping we can kind of squeeze it to the left, but yeah, interesting. Let's see. Hang on. Okay, so there's a bit of a gap right there in the back of this, in the back of like in the back of where technically the button's supposed to be. So I'm gonna use that gap. I'm gonna have to put the phone on for a second. Wow. Okay, so we need to unplug the wiring harness and route it through the back, because there's a metal like a metal bit that won't let you go through. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's basically where I've hit the cable. Really hoping it's gonna have enough room in there, because it's really just kind of stuck in there. There's no give at all. So we'll start putting everything back. Let me go ahead and push this in, and after I push this in, I'm gonna put in the dashboard. After the dashboard, we're gonna go and put this thing back in. Don't forget to plug in the dashboard. Don't forget to plug in the hazard lights. This. Right, let's slowly do it. So I put the dashboard back in. There's not much to it. You just kind of push it in. Just be careful not to catch a clip in the back, which I just did, but whatever. It's pretty straightforward, so not much explaining there to do. I'm gonna put the hazard control thingy back on. Make sure to remember to plug it back in. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right order. Easy peasy, easy peasy. It just popped right back in. Now this is the area I'm most concerned about, just because there's little to no room in there. So yeah, I'm hoping the cables will just kind of magically get out of the way or something. So let's give it a shot. Okay. So do, I guess, the right hand side first, then the middle, because you know it has these clips, so it clips right in where it should be. There we go. Seems to be good-ish. Yeah, looking decent. Okay, so clipped in. Seems to be fine. Okay. Right now, this little cable, I guess it's not a big concern. If you have some zip ties, just zip tie it over there, which is probably what I'm going to do. But these, I guess we can just start popping them back in. And, oh, actually the big boy, we can do the big one. But I'll do that in a second. I just want to make sure I get this done first. Okay, so I started by putting this back in and actually hooking this up. It's a bit of a faff. There's a little bit of clamp there that I kind of missed, but everything's back in order now. So we need to put this screw in this hole right here, and there was another hole right there. Technically, these are the only 2 screws we need to put back in, well, not counting the nut to hold the steering wheel, and we're good to go. We're going to be driving a little Ferrari. So here we go. Okay, so I finished putting these 2 screws back in. Literally probably the hardest thing out of this whole installation, because there's no room back there. It's so hard to get it in. And this little buddy, I think we're gonna have to pull it down, so hang on. Lock it in. Okay, there we go. So it just kind of clips in from what I can see. There we go. Yeah, looking good. Starting to get back to normal. I suppose now we can put the steering wheel back on, but I just want to put this trim just to make sure I'm done on this side. All right, so we got the dashboard back in. We just popped it into place, and now we're gonna install the steering wheel and be done with this. There we go. Let's pop this in. So I tried to drill this to make it larger. It didn't really work, but in the end it kind of did, because I'm just gonna use I just kind of made it wider and now it fits, so I'll just do that. Anyway, let's finish up on the steering wheel. Tighten this baby up. Hang on, I'll use 2 hands. Okay. Airbag, where's the airbag? Oh, there she is. Yeah. Okay, so same thing as before. We're gonna plug in the air. Oh, wait. Before we do the airbag, I just want to put this back in, right? So we have to put the ground. Don't forget about the ground. So let me just screw that back in. Okay, that should do it nice and tight. It's plugged in, that's tight. Okay, so let's put the airbag in, I guess. All done. Okay, so let's go on faith. I'm just gonna push it in and hope for the best. Okay, there we go. So it seems to be locked in correctly. Button feels sturdy. There's a bit of motion if you go to town and really try to push it, but overall, I mean, that's kind of the housing moving, not so much just the switch. It's like the whole thing moving. But yeah, it looks good. That's what I'm talking about. What a huge difference. I mean, The original one's not bad. It's just that this is very Ferrari-like, and I'm a big fan. So let me power it back. Let me power it on and see what that looks like. Okay, we are 100% finished. Let's see. So first, I'm just gonna try this out. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's looking good. That's wonderful. Oh, that's amazing. I love it. That's beautiful. Yeah, steering wheel works, headlights work, everything works. So yeah, looks like we did it, boys. So hopefully I saved you a little bit of time. We did it together. But yeah, mission successful. It looks great. It definitely belongs on the car, especially if you have it in red. It just fits really well with all the. I got red seat belts as well, so I think it matches the red little accents everywhere and like the red stitching. So yeah, not bad. I'm really happy with this. I'm petrified and horrified by the instructions, but I'm happy that it worked. I'm really happy that eventually we got it in the end. So there we have it, guys. Hopefully this was helpful to someone, because it was a lot of work, and I didn't really enjoy this very much, because it's like diving off the deep end. You don't know what to expect. You don't know if it's going to work. So I'm happy it came out well in the end. Yeah, there you go.